Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Analyst Desk for a preview of SK Gaming versus Rogue. They have been quite the hot topic of conversation, and this game impacts the fight for first and the race for playoffs. But before we can get into any of that, let's celebrate the fact that Rogue have already, locked a spot in for the postseason.
Wow, if we had a real host, he'd mute his tech, you know?
It's 7 o'clock on the hour, Trevor, in case you were wondering.
You're 100% right. Look, they've already locked in their spot for playoffs. With the win today, they'll guarantee top 2. The thing that I find very interesting to see is, depending on the results between Rogue and Mad Lions, whoever finishes first in the summer season can guarantee themselves a shot. They guarantee Worlds.
And that's huge, too. And Rogue looking very good at the moment. Just their game yesterday against Fnatic, absolutely crushing them. I feel like whenever I watch Larssen play, he is putting on a masterclass in how to play the mid lane. He's the best team fighting mid in the LEC at the moment, and I don't feel like he's even touching.
I think with the exception of dropping that game to G2, in which honestly they still could have won, I do feel like Rogue are overcoming their demons, they are developing, their strength is continuing to grow, and they have gone unsung for several weeks. We've been screaming their praise. For the last 2 weeks, we have been screaming their praise. They're definitely one of the teams I'm expecting to play at Worlds.
Okay, sure, but on the other side of it, perhaps one on their road to playoffs worth a conversation is SK Gaming. I mean, this one is probably a different tone to that of what was previously.
I mean, the crazy thing for me was they fell under my radar. And when I was looking at the stats, looking at the number of scenarios that they can actually advance to playoffs, 78% of remaining scenarios at the beginning of the day had SK in playoffs. And looking at how they've diversified their play style on the second half of the split by trying to add some more threats in different locations has made me happy. But fundamentally, I still think if Crownshot is not the man stepping up, this team is going to fall apart.
That's the thing, right? When you look at SK, I draw a lot of parallels between them and Excel because they're both two teams that are very much driven and very much carried by their bot laners. So Crownshot, when he was struggling yesterday, couldn't really find his footing in a lot of these fights. That is where SK are going to falter. Now, I believe that one player in the LEC this summer can get you into playoffs, but to make a dent, you do need to be able to diversify somehow, and SK still have yet to find that second real threat on their roster.
The interesting question that I have as well is that, like, I anticipate Rogue to be one of the teams that is truthfully competing for shot of finals. I'm thinking 1, 2, or 3 for Rogue. Like, I'm not going to be surprised. SK, if they can figure out some diversification, if they can show some of the wins they had at the beginning of the second half of summer, you know, maybe they could be contesting for 4th. They're sitting there now. Do I believe it? Not yet, right? But there's still 4 more games to watch, but it's not outside the realm of possibility.
And that's all I needed. I needed some positive seeds to plant for the SK Gaming camp, and I'll be watering them throughout the cast. Let's go ahead and do that, because the casters are ready, and this matchup can turn, thank you, the tides in the fight for first and race for playoffs. So let's see who comes out on top.
Oh, we didn't hire you to garden. That's not what this is about.
It's a gardening metaphor, Trevor.
All right, hate to interrupt
whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever the hell is happening there. I'm Drakos, this is Frosk. Some people like to call us mom and dad, but we're here to bring you SK Gaming versus Rogue. This is going to be a very interesting matchup because yesterday, SK Gaming were my favorites, and they lost in, I won't say spectacular fashion, but definitely dominant fashion coming out from Misfits, and Rogue on the opposite side weathered the Fnatic storm is what I'll say. Fnatic threw a lot of things, mostly their bodies, at the Rogue lineup, and Rogue came out on top. It was a good look.
Yeah, I think it was just unfortunate that Rogue didn't get to dismantle and inform Fnatic. That said, they still did it in such a terrifying way that I think you don't need us to tell you anymore that Rogue are a good team. You have eyes, you can use them, touch them to Rogue, it feels nice. Now, SK on the other side, I think are kind of the more interesting story because they have sitting up pretty high and pretty in the standings right now, and with Excel picking up wins and holding the head-to-head, SK need to hopefully grab whatever is given to them at this point, and they're now kind of one of the squads in the firing zone. So all eyes on SK to maybe make a miracle run here against Rogue.
And it's important to note, for Rogue, they've already locked in playoffs, right? So it's a matter of locking
it's a matter of locking worlds.
Locking worlds, securing as much top spots, but as Trevor has been informing you repeatedly throughout the day, it's important to keep in mind the number, or the percentage rather, of remaining scenarios where a team will lock playoffs. Currently, SK are around 70. If they win this game, they will be at 90. That's a huge difference if they're able to find ways to win Rogue first here today. just said some words. Go, Froskurinn. Go.
Okay, yeah, give it to me, because I really want to talk about SK Gaming on blue side, because I think it's really important. I think that there is a blueprint to beating Rogue, or at least trying to even out your chances, and it does start with banning Azir. I want to see them also ban Orianna. Now, I don't think they'll do it because they'll probably first pick it, and ZaZee showed a good performance on the Orianna, but I just feel like if you just eliminate all of the control mages, okay, I also like the Syndra ban, if you eliminate all the control mages, like those heavy target bans, and you first pick Orianna, I think this is what you do against Larssen and against Rogue.
My question is, do we finally get to see Caitlyn? Because we've had so many AD carry bans, 3 of the top priority ones. Of course, Aphelios is still up, but he has not been really high priority at all this week so far. Jenax is always hovering more, so that means nothing so far. With Orianna banned away a little bit as predicted there, Froskurinn, it means that SK Gaming do get their hands on the Syndra, the remaining kind of high popularity mid lane pick. Of course, Zoe's still available, Corki's, something that Larssen would have gone towards in the past, but it looks like for now, Finn focused on picking his weak side top laner of choice. Will it be the GP? Will it be the Ornn?
I think it'll be bot lane and support.
Yeah, probably also fair. And they are going to lock Aphelios. Interesting. All right, now, for those who don't know, Aphelios did receive a number of nerfs on this patch, mostly to do with how his chakram turrets work, and additionally how the AoE on his flamethrower works in pair with Runan's Hurricane. TLDR, weaker, less reliable. A lot of his hidden power has been taken away, but effectively he can still do Aphelios things if he's given enough items.
He's basically just dropped down lower in priority. Now, one of the nice things is that when you do pair him with Thresh, who has also received some nerfs, particularly on his Dark Passage, I would still say that Aphelios sits up pretty high because he's so versatile. He can fit into any composition, and at this point it feels like Rogue are just kind of fishing to see what SK Gaming are going to put together before they kind of figure out the core of the composition or the identity of their composition. Gangplank then also has the powerful blind pick and the classic Caitlyn Morgana. Now usually Caitlyn and Morgana used to be a death sentence to play in the LEC or EU LCS back in the day because you always knew it was going to be about splitting the map, and the teams never let you split the map on them. So we'll see if SK Gaming actually get away with that one, if they get to have the power of the Caitlyn Morgana lane all to themselves.
We'll have to keep our eyes on that. For now, though, we do see bot lane and the top lane locked in for Rogue, hiding jungle, hiding the mid lane. They're going to take the Scion away from Jenax, wanting to limit his champion pool. Jenax has been a bit all over the place in terms of what he's brought to the table. Hard to say exactly how to classify Jenax as the top laner, as it is still his first split, but the Echo will be banned away, taking some of the remaining picks out of Larssen's pool. And gotta say, Rogue so far set up to do Rogue things, set up to scale very comfortably in this game, whereas SK Gaming have certainly a few more curveballs. It has been a while since we've seen Kate Morgana.
I feel like one of the concerns right now with what Rogue have drafted as a composition is they don't have a lot of magic damage. And so if Larsen's picks continue to get pinched here, like the Echo, one of his AP picks, we do assume that he'll lean towards something like his Corki that does have mixed damage. But then you are, you know, a lot of physical damage heavy targets there. There's not a lot of AP junglers that are particularly strong unless Inspired wants to pivot maybe towards the Gragas or the Karthus. But you know, it's things like the Kha'Zixes that are running around, so you'd have another AD threat. And I think that's maybe where Rogue might run into trouble with this composition on their final few picks here.
Absolutely. If they had given the Corki up, it would have been very easily if SK can secure a tank to buy Rain to its Omen and mitigate crits from 3 different champions on the Rogue lineup. But for now, Rogue going to be opting for a more tanky option, a bit of true damage in Sett's kit if they do
He's going to have to go Ryze.
But I mean, to be fair, his Ryze was nasty last time we saw it. The downside is, while Ryze certainly has a decent amount of lane presence, I would still consider him overall very much a scaling pick in terms of reliable damage output.
Does also mean that their ability to play side lane here would be unchallenged if Larssen does end up on his Ryze. So SK Gaming do need to think about that one. They are looking for hard engage into their composition, so if they opted for the Ornn here, it would kind of shore up some of their 5v5 potential, but then they do need to question, you know, okay, if this game gets really stalled out and if this is going to be Larsen's Ryze and it is Finn's GP, they don't necessarily really have an answer to play on a side lane, and they could slowly just have the map torn away from them. Otherwise, they have to get early souls rolling to threaten Drake's soul.
Ooh, and the Olaf going to be the final pick coming in here, Frosco. I like the Ornn. They're just matching weak side top laners. They both got a lot of teamfight impact there, but the Olaf now coming in for Trick is not my favorite thing to see Trick play, personally, but obviously as a champion with an immense amount of power. The downside is you're playing it into Inspired, one of the great Polish Olaf gods, so I have a hard time imagining you getting the mental edge at any point in this matchup, as the Ryze will be the final pick, well predicted, Froskurinn.
I think Olaf was pretty clear that it was going to come out because A, you're working with a Syndra, and B, you're working with Morgana and Caitlyn. And you also see the Sett coming out, so you want a hard dueling jungler and one that can move very quickly through the jungle and make the most out of the priority that a Caitlyn and a Morgana can buy you, and the kill pressure and river that a Syndra can also provide or back you up with. So we already talked about how Rogue were going to go for the Ryze. They now have Gangplank and Ryze, so the ability to play 1-3-1, even though I don't think it's the best in this meta because Baron and Drake Souls are so powerful that 5v5 is just better, but those two champions can also 5v5, so it doesn't really matter. My issue with SK Gaming's comp is eventually they won't be able to match those two champions on the side lane with the Syndra and an Ornn. So there are more ways, in my opinion, the later this game goes, for Rogue to actually play out the map and win the game.
Similarly, on the outside for SK Gaming, we're going to have to see exactly what they can get done up against this Rogue composition as we get into our third match of the day, SK versus Rogue.
They never mute us, Drakos!
Oh, could they hear? The physical sounds of us dancing, they could hear. Thank you, Kevin.
Hey guys, breaking news!
Breaking news as an invade in the bot lane and head over to KK Gaming for a chance to win skins, but more in the important time. Words are hard for me today, Frosco. You're gonna have to bear with me. SK Gaming invading onto the bottom side, potentially already splitting the map and setting our boy Trick up to live on either bot lane or mid lane. That's going to make Hansama and VandeR's life very difficult.
If you guys are brand new to League of Legends or don't listen to anything that we say, that's fine. I won't hold it against you. This is a split map. So what you do is you invade early. You place down deep vision. You want to split the map by making sure that there's no reason for Inspired to ever be on the bottom side of the map because his camps won't be there. That then empowers Limit and Crownshot to do whatever the hell that they want into the lane, including being super far forward and aggressive, taking pot shots, making the most out of Caitlyn, who is now an S-tier pick. More on that later.
And of course, one of the big things that you set an expectation for in the draft, Froskurinn, was looking at Olaf for Trick and looking at how he can maximize his early game impact with this pick, maximize the strength of a lot of the setup CC that is present in these SK Gaming lanes. Jenax, of course, coming around here to contest Inspired. They know it's a split map, they know Inspired's in the area, but Jenax, by spending a bit of time here, is going to give up a little on the top side. It does mean the Gangplank will be able to push that wave in a decent amount, should we get a faster level 2. But Finn, good patience, good discipline here, is just trying to be about one creep ahead, does not want to force it into the tower and give Jenax access to that free farm, instead trying to deny what he can.
Yeah, and one of the things that Rogue could look to do, especially because they also have the TP off of Larssen, is perhaps maybe set up a slow push into a dive to punish Jenax because they would have numbers advantage on the top side of the map. That said, really difficult to do against Ornn. So I also think that this was kind of the other caveat of picking Ornn here as opposed to maybe a more bruiser-oriented champion. You needed the hard engage for your composition, and you can also dissuade dives.
Similarly, I think putting Jenax is something that's going to have a guaranteed output. I really like Jenax on tanks. He has had a few great games on more carry-style champions, but I think generally just having that safe, reliable output when you have a team where ZaZee has been performing and Crownshot have been performing so well is pretty solid. I don't mind that both teams are trading there, but now we see Inspired getting frisky in the mid lane, getting ready for the flash forward. Flash out from ZaZee, though. Inspired doesn't even burn his flash there, so just a very positive exchange for him overall. A bit behind on jungle pathing now, but has to feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, but his wave is absolutely destroyed right now. Larssen's feeling really good. Oh, wait. No, I spoke too soon. Thank you, observers. The caster creeps actually focus fired. So you can see Larssen, all of the caster creeps behind him, they're all thrown in tandem right now, and they're hitting the exact same target, which means they'll kill the opponent in front of them and then push heavier. Obviously, if they don't get focus fired like that, and if the tank had died first, it slowly would have rolled over to Larssen's side of the lane, and then he could have frozen the wave on ZaZee and just ruined his life there.
Good thing is that Rogue are adapting on the fly to the minions. Normally unfortunate choice to focus fire there, as they've now got 3 members on the top side of the map. More than enough help here to go for the dive, but they cannot afford to misplay this one. Jenax gonna get pulled back. The knockup now interrupted. Big mistake coming in there from Jenax. First blood going over to Rogue. The fact that that knockup was canceled makes the dive so free.
And we talked about how this was always going to be a possibility because the map was split by SK. It meant that there was always going to be a numbers advantage for Rogue on the top side of the map, and then also the dive potential from Sett. You already saw it there, Inspired using his big shield. But it was a really nice pivot because they didn't have to use the teleport because of the wave management. When the caster minions got focus fired, Larssen didn't waste any time. He's like, I'm just going to hard push this. I then have the ability to move first, and I'm going to execute on the dive. So very nice adaptation here from Larssen.
And I like the quick heads-up thinking from Rogue. This is kind of the clean League of Legends we've come to expect. They did a very good job of responding to the split map by diving top lane. And in the meantime, while Crownshot and Limit have been doing some pretty good work and even are getting a CS lead, the second they backed, Crownshot got, or Hansama rather, got all that CS back. There was about a 10 CS advantage for Crownshot, but Hansama very quickly able to push back. The lane is evened out, and now a lot of the early game advantage that we wanted the Caitlyn to have isn't really being felt, whereas on the top side, Jenax is going to have a very hard time playing League of Legends for the next 20 minutes.
It's not going to feel good, especially because he doesn't have the flash or the TP, and there is a possibility for some repeat dives. Now, he does have a Ruby Crystal, so obviously didn't have the armor, and that's also Finn walking back into the lane with the Sheen. I think that there's potential here, depending on kind of where the wave gets put up here and how many bullets Jenax is going to take, that you look for a repeat dive and really punish if this guy doesn't have TP.
Well, that's part of the reason why I think the Finn Sheen pickup would indicate that, because very often we see Gangplanks just be happy to take a Cole in this matchup, knowing that they are outscale in terms of raw damage output, but taking the Sheen early on makes it feel like he wants to shoot that little
It's
Forge
a
God, Goat Forge. He wants to shoot that thing in the face.
Listen, there is one god in our league, and it is Vedius.
It is Vedius. Blessed be his name. That said,
oh no,
the Forge God on the top side, they're not fans. This is not a pantheon. There's only room for one god. Rogue are making that very clear.
Back up, back up.
SK, though, do not want to die. They are going to get a TP out, and so far, SK not really getting a lot done across the map, and Rogue just getting small advantages at every single turn. And
Rogue's early game is so good. If you guys haven't seen it, they have the most ridiculous gold difference at 15 of any team in the league. I talked about it yesterday in their game versus Fnatic. It's usually because of how they use numbers advantage and fast resets to basically get every single objective. Their objective control is absurd. Now, of course, this game, different because it was a split map. It's also an Olaf, so SK got the first Drake. But outside of that, Rogue are making all of the right moves every single time Larssen has the ability to move. He is applying pressure to that map and punishing Jenax. And yeah, they didn't punish the fact that Jenax doesn't have TP, but they made sure that ZaZee doesn't have it either.
They did it versus Fnatic, so it's no surprise to see them be able to do it against SK as well. Have to see how SK adapts now. For SK yesterday, Crownshot necessarily didn't have the, or didn't necessarily, wow. Really,
didn't necessarily.
There we go, have the best performance. I think it was a bit of a struggle for the Ezreal, partly due to just the Kai'Sa being so difficult to play against, but the good news for SK was that ZaZee really stepped up, and now we want to see something similar from him today, but already losing that flash early on in the mid lane has given up so much of his early pressure. We're gonna have to have some thought, because now we've got a gank on the bot side, Cannon Barrage coming out, Crownshot has to flash out the safety, but they still got the setup. CC well played by Hansama to hold on that one, pulled back by Inspired. Black Shield not nearly gonna be enough as Limit saves his own life, and ooh, Crownshot knocked down.
Really well orchestrated right there from Rogue, pretty much across the whole map. The only person who didn't get involved was Larssen, and you can already see that he was moving forward again every single opportunity he has, diving into the jungle, setting down a control ward, could have been there to chase them down. So we take another look at this one. Praise VandeR! Flash flay into a lantern, don't know why I'm singing, set up by Finn, nice slow. Already burned the flashes, you already called Hansama. He then also has the purple gun out, and then while the binding does tag Inspired, it is not enough.
I respect your Disney princess cosplay.
That's not what that was, but we'll pretend.
VandeR. We'll do. We'll sing VandeR replays from now on. It's kind of day it is. But no, so far so good. Very clean game from Rogue. Of course, a Drake over to the side of SK, but otherwise Rogue approaching on a 1K gold lead. Their Gangplank significantly ahead in terms of raw gold value over the Ornn. Obviously going to get additional gold on top for the parlay. As the observers are highlighting now. All of that gold advantage is in that matchup, as Hansama's play on the bottom side really just brought him back to even against a lane that he's expected to suffer against early, and we're starting to see why Aphelios is just so obnoxious to deal with, is that he's just got so much in the kit that it feels like he can always find a situation to be relevant.
And meanwhile, it is just getting worse and worse. ZaZee doesn't have that TP, so he's slowly walking up here and just wasting his time.
Poor ZaZee. One day he'll find someone he can kill. It's not going to be easy this game, because Aphelios is the only target I think he can actually kill as we get later in the game, as the Ryze is going to have just a lot of HP and a lot of effective shielding once he gets that Seraphs as well.
I want to talk about the bot lane, because you just brought something up before that attempted dive is going, and I want to talk about Morgana specifically. Morgana Caitlyn used to be the most feared lane. They're just super obnoxious, and you can see, yeah, they're still pushing pretty hard. The Tormented Soil, the Caitlyn Q, the auto attacks, it's just not that great. But the problem with Morgana is her Black Shield has received so much power taken out of it, so many nerfs over time, that because you usually max Q, when you do need to max Black Shield to actually be able to survive, to be meaningful in any sort of way, you have to then, you know, slow down your Dark Binding. So I feel like Morgana's in like a weird spot where you don't necessarily really want to spec, where you want to spec her. She can't be a pick champion and a defensive champion, and I kind of feel like she's just shitty Karma. I would have just rather had a Karma.
I'm inclined to agree.
I feel like teams, they see Thresh and they're like, Morgana, that's the answer.
But
Black Shield, and I'm just like, or you could also just have Karma, who I feel scales infinitely better and works with a lot more compositions, works as a flex pick, and not deal with this BS Morgana of, am I gonna put points in the E? Am I gonna put points in the Q?
Frosco, I think you might be right. Now, we don't know 100% why SK are picking it here, but what I will say is that outside of like Thresh Hook and Gravitum,
it's Thresh.
Yeah, it's how much CC are you really mitigating with the Black Shield here? Olaf can make himself unstoppable.
Well, not a lot when Ryze is in a fight, because he's just gonna like instantly pop it.
Yeah. So don't love it so far. Obviously could show us more. Would have preferred a Bardo here, quite frankly. Feels like it would be very good. But I'm also very biased because I love that champion more than anything. Please stop nerfing him. I understand he's OP. I don't care.
This is the Rogue special.
Quick swap up for the Herald. 10 minutes, they're going to be able to grab this one. Very crucial that they grab it at this point and not later in the game, because it does mean that they will have time to grab some tower plates with this. Further press their advantage. In the meantime, Crownshot's going to be able to grab a few plates of his own, but as he spot a Cole, he will be a bit delayed in getting to that first major item. So keep an eye on how he wants to itemize. If you watch the Freak Show this week, you'll know that no attack speed is the recommended build from the math wizard himself. Just Storm Razor, IE, as well as the Essence Reaver, because Kate does not scale nearly as well with attack speed as other champions. And Crownshot's going to have more than enough money to make that decision for himself.
Really nice use of the Gangplank ultimate to clear out the wave. The observers are now showing us that it was Han Sama who was given the Rift Herald, and you can see that we're about to have a race, and poor little Jenax is sitting on the finish line. Who will get there first? He's using the ult to try to clear the wave.
Han Sama with the sidestep there. Little fire breath action inbound. There it is, and Rogue gonna get nothing. But for Jenax, bless his little heart. He's got flash, he's got TP up, and he's been ganked probably 5 times already. So I would say, all things considered, not that bad.
It is still, however, a race with Han Sama having Herald. What they were doing, Rogue, is trying to dissuade Crownshot and Limit from grabbing the first tower by using that Gangplank ult that we talked about. And then that, of course, forced Jenax trick, and now Crownshot and Limit to respond. So I actually think it doesn't feel like a lot has happened, but a lot has happened in terms of where the plate gold has gone, and a lot of these waves while SK were trying to like figure out what kind of formation they wanted on the map, and I feel like Rogue won and have continued to grow this gold lead.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me, Froskurinn, right now is that because Inspired has been a part of 2 kills already, he's essentially evened up the gold discrepancy between him and Trick. Now, there's still going to be a experience advantage for Olaf, and that is a very big deal early on, but we talked about getting the maximum amount of Olaf early on, and I don't feel like, at least outside of splitting the map, that we've really seen that quite yet. The good news is they have used that raw power to secure 2 Drakes, but we haven't seen any greater gold advantages come through for SK quite yet, and they are in a decent deficit at this point.
I still think that it's actually really important for SK's win conditions that they wanted to stack Drakes very quickly. Like, that's the whole point of the Olaf, and also when their composition is strong. If Caitlyn does itemize the 2 fly AD items as opposed to going AD item, looks like an Infinity Edge, into a Zeal, for that Dragon Soul fight, I'll hold it.
Oh, punch it right back, right as we praise Jenax. He is going to get taken down here slowly but surely. Inspired's going to grab that kill.
Okay, more important. But for that Dragon Soul fight, if everything goes according to plan for SK, Syndra and Caitlyn would be so powerful for it that hopefully SK are like, we got Dragon Soul exactly when we wanted. It's not necessarily the soul that we wanted because it's Mountain Soul, and then they close out the game. So the RNG on the Drakes, I think, really screwed them. And then also, they also need to get 2 more Dragons. So
it is especially bad soul RNG, because Ryze is a lot more about sustained damage, and while that shield's going to feel pretty good, both him and Aphelios will, if they can DPS check you, the Mountain is not going to be the difference there, as opposed to the Infernal or something potentially stronger like the Ocean, even in this case. But Obviously, Trick and Jenax will both be happy to have a few more defensive stats as well as the shield. And checking in, Jenax has finally made it back to the bottom side of the map. But the big focus right now for SK is getting something done top side as ZaZee roams up. Still, though, patience, slower play. Have to wonder, does Crownshot have that first item completed? Is that why we're seeing everyone back off? Because he is still essentially even with Hansama at this point in the game. The difference of the Cole versus the Cloak definitely puts things in Hansama's favor. But once he cashes out, maybe Crownshot can be back in the lead.
Well, it is, like you said, Infinity Edge for both of them. The next Drake spawning in 1 minute. Why can't we speak today?
I don't know.
Something in the water.
I think it's the lack of coffee. I'm drinking my espresso now.
I would, not saying to anyone in particular,
Kevin.
love a cappuccino.
Kevin gets mad when we ask for coffee because we're adults and we can get it ourselves. Speaking of getting it himself, VandeR, he's a man who wants a little bit of Crownshot. Hook goes out. Black Shield says no. Not that the hook would have hit anyway, but they are going to stop that play in its track.
This is actually really important for Rogue. They're making sure that they have the wave priority to help get early setup on this Drake. Again, we talked about how important it was for SK's comp. I think to find any sort of window where they can close out against Rogue before Rogue just kind of run away with the game with their composition. So if Rogue get this Drake and steal it away from SK, then they need to get much more creative about how they want to close this one out.
The thing that I really love about what Rogue are doing right now is that they've so quickly moved into 1-3-1, something that you talked about their comp being strong at. But because ZaZee and Jenax are so mediocre on side lanes right now, they can't send Caitlyn Morgana mid. They still have to put them side lane, and it means that I feel like SK are permanently at a disadvantage when it comes to moving across the map because they've always got two people out on a side lane.
And I think how Jenax is falling really far behind, because one of the interesting things that we saw from the Fnatic versus Rogue game is that Bwipo could have hard carried that game on the Ornn because Rogue they continuously run compositions where they don't really have a tank. And Finn, again, he played Renekton yesterday, playing Gangplank this time around. Like, maybe we get to a point where it is just about killing the front line as quickly or slowly as possible, and then SK obviously have a huge advantage, but Jenax is very far away from that, and this is the Drake that's, again, very important. SK want this one. They need to make sure that they can use a lot of their power in the mid-game, and forcing Drake fight would do that.
Ulti coming out, Inspired gonna go for the dump back down. Can they secure the Drake? Inspired going right back in. Trick has managed to get this one, but it's Crownshot off to the backside. Big damage going in. Big Aphelios on to follow, and now Crownshot's all on his lonesome. Finn, though, with the parlay, does get exhausted, but now Ryze is coming in. That's the double for Larssen. Oh, he's looking to clean up, and that's it. SK, they've already gotten outscaled. It's only 16 minutes, and there's nothing left. Are you kidding me? Rogue with a dominant early game performance.
Oh, that damage was disgusting, and it's only going to get worse. Woo! I got nothing.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a game where we needed absolute dominance from Caitlyn. We needed Jenax to hold the line, and we needed Trick to do a lot. However, instead, Rogue denied that at every turn, made plays of their own, and now after a one fight like this, we are holding out hope for a Dragon Soul for SK because Rogue are already monstering these team fights, and they've got stronger side lanes too.
But it's not fair. That damage.
Yeah, Ryze is...
Okay, round 2. Olaf and ZaZee versus Larssen.
Here we go. Larssen knocked back, clicked on.
Clicked on again.
And walking away briefly. They're taking their time on this one. Larssen trying to sidestep.
Dead.
That's phase rush. Trick waiting on the axe. They're trying to give the kill to ZaZee. The knock forward. Larssen still stepping out. They're donating the kill to Trick. He dies in time.
Do you think that's salt in the wound? Like, who actually won there?
Well, given that
did Larssen win or did SK win?
If the Caitlyn bullet left the gun, you do not get the ult cooldown back. So I would say that definitely I feel like Larssen is the moral victor. He gets a tower. He gets to do some fancy footwork stuff, which is mostly looks cool because they're obviously trying to donate the kill to the right member of the team. But look at those Nikes. This man is fast as light. Boom. Here we go. Does the bullet leave the gun? Dun, 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 dun. Bam! Yeah, you don't get that one back. Sorry, buddy. Wow.
I feel like I learned a lot there.
Yeah, as someone who is frequently so underpowered on Caitlyn that you have to ult to try to steal kills, I'm very aware of how the ulti cooldown works. Anyway.
While all of that had been happening, Finn was actually still 1v1 against Jenax. You can see that the CS lead still not feeling great for Jenax, and that it looked like it was a slow, probably a slow push that Finn, where he stacked multiple waves and then got Inspired and Hansama and VandeR to cover him to force another structure down. So very cool anime that our observers just kind of led us through in the great fight of Larssen versus Crownshot, but underneath all of that, Finn is continuing to win the map.
maybe it's like a personal bias because I just love anime so much, but I just want someone who has a really epic voice and can speak Japanese to stand next to us and narrate every single one of those sweet observer replays. I feel like it would take the league to another level. People, let me know what you think about that one.
This is why you're the big creative brain, Drakos, is those ideas.
Yes, stealing from other genres. Really my speciality.
That's actually just been your career.
Shh. Don't rat me out, I need this. Rogue and SK Gaming, obviously very different place in the standings, but for SK Gaming, this is one that they really needed to win. Remember that they were tied for third at the start of the week. Currently they still are, but they will drop down if they lose this game. Rogue, on the other hand, fighting for first. As we said, kind of big stakes here. For SK Gaming, if they win this game in 90% of the remaining scenarios following this game, they will make playoffs. If they lose, you go from 72, well, a much lower number. So definitely want to find the win here.
Checking in on itemization, as you can clearly see that SK Gaming are just trying to get a good chunk off onto this tower. Caitlyn decided to opt into the Zeal. Now, again, quick reference, there's some math that's going around on Reddit, started by Freak over in the LCS, that the power curve feels better on Caitlyn to instead go Infinity Edge, Storm Razors, and then possibly into an Essence Reaver, or then pivoting into an attack speed item. This item build is obviously the traditional Caitlyn build, but it has more of a U power curve, or she's now in a trough because she doesn't have an inbuilt steroid, so attack speed just kind of means less as an itemization trait for Caitlyn, because unlike every other hyper carry in the game that gets to whatever, press their buttons and then have another attack speed steroid, Caitlyn doesn't get one. It's more so about her headshots and then comboing her abilities to get more procs to the headshot off. So I like to think of it, if you do go the multiple BF sword route, that it's about playing more like a Draven versus playing like a Jinx.
Yeah, I think it is a very good way to look at it, and for Crownshot, having the additional range on the auto attack is a big factor and is going to feel quite nice. He's going to be able to land a bit more poke. The empowered range on the trap or net procs is also going to be much larger. Yeah,
it's probably really important because Larssen does so much damage and you need to stay out of Ryze's reach. One of the things that I hate about Ryze is just like how threatening he is to mid-range AD carries. And like obviously Caitlyn doesn't fit in that bucket, but the rapid fire cannon is going to make it feel even safer.
Yeah, and I think the big nightmare that I always have whenever a Ryze gets fed is if you don't have reliable point-and-click CC, which at this point, SK Gaming do not. He's going to phase rush on you, but they might be able to steal this one away. Trick, can you do it? Woo! Mountain Soul. Well played, Trick. Okay, I was ready to just, call this one done. We were going to fill the space however we needed to, but with Mountain Soul, maybe SK can start to come out on top of these fights.
I mean, it's never going to hurt, but again, it just doesn't feel as good as it should, especially for how powerful Larssen still is, and you can see that Rogue knows that as well. They kill Trick, trade his life for the Mountain Soul, and then immediately turn on the Baron, and the only option that SK have is to try to fight them. Good luck!
And poor Crownshot, he's playing an AD carry that was designed so long ago. It simply does not have the tools to do everything it needs to, but they managed to connect the snare. Larssen forced to flash out. The Baron stolen away by ZaZee. Froskurinn, and this is where you just don't understand. ZaZee had clutch potential the entire time.
What? I was looking at Larssen.
I was looking at the team fight. I thought for sure there was no way in hell that one got stolen.
2 back-to-back steals. I lied. There is more than one god.
No. Look. We have there's an underground movement happening in the LEC right now, and it's called the Church of Gilius. And ZaZee
has prayed.
Yeah, has done his prayers. He hooked it up. He did what he had to do.
I'm waiting, observers. This better be the best anime that I've ever seen.
Yeah, all according to Kakaku observers.
Okay, what's the theme song? Okay, so what happens here?
It's you say run, definitely. Yeah, definitely you say run. Boom. Oh, yeah.
38.
That was heroic.
HP. Wow.
Yeah, Syndra's really good at stealing Barons. My god.
He is missmited. It was 38 HP.
I'm going to give the credit to Syndra. I feel like that's the better narrative. SK Gaming getting absolutely outclassed in fights, but coming up clutch when it matters most. They steal a 4th dragon. They steal a Baron. 100 Thieves.
They'll steal the game.
You got nothing on SK Gaming.
No, now SK need to make this one really hurt. At this point in the game, Syndra's kind of like the most powerful that she might actually ever be. Now, obviously she doesn't fall off, but I feel like she kind of plateaus in her damage. Syndra, once she has level 13, once she has 2 points in ultimate, once she has 2 items, that's kind of like her big, like, I can really mess you up before more MR starts coming in and she doesn't instantly just get to pop whoever she wants to click on. So SK with Mountain Soul, with Baron, feel very strong in this window. Run, Trick.
He's getting out. He's getting out. They have nothing to do there. But okay, so Froskurinn, here's the thing.
Yep.
Rogue's comp outscales, I think, in every conceivable way.
Well, no, there is one way that it doesn't. And that is if we do just actually play front-to-back team fights and Jenax gets enough items and he just becomes absolutely unkillable because Rogue don't have the same tank threat. Now, obviously, it's not as simple as that. It would come down to, like, execution. But, like, there is a world where you just have an Ornn standing in front of you and a Caitlyn that's just, like, 2-shots you with crits.
All right, I believe. I look at Aphelios and I feel like there's more going on there, but I see what you're saying, Froskurinn, and I'll give you that. But here's the one way that I know that SK outscale 100% past the front-to-back team fight, and that's Elder Dragon for SK.
Okay, yeah.
Because the thing is that the Soul, as you mentioned, isn't the biggest deal. But by taking the Soul, the Elder Dragon is now up. It is now an available objective, which means that any kind of advantage that SK wanted to, or Rogue wanted to have rather on side lanes, or in a fight if they can find a flank to kick it off, disappears in the face of a buff that will just execute them if they get too low.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, again, huge credit to SK. I still personally feel that Rogue had kind of more available win conditions for them, and one of the most important things, especially when you pick this Olaf, is you had to get the Drake run, so huge credit to Trick for getting that steal, making sure that they got it, and potentially now fighting for an earlier Elder before the game, in my opinion, does absolutely walk away from SK. So they win this game, huge credit for like really executing on the step-by-step instructions of this comp.
Well, yeah, we're glossing over some details, I think, if we give them full marks, but they got there in the end, right? They checked off everything else.
I saw him with the Soul, I saw him with the Baron. I'm like, that must have done well.
It's like you're like, okay, go from A to B, SK, and they're like, got it, straight line, straight line. Giant circle, loop-de-loop, back and forth 3 times.
Oh, no.
But they got there. All right, Crownshot now almost on 3 items. He's going to be feeling pretty strong on the back of this next one.
He's going to be feeling really strong because it's also the Ornn item.
Yeah, and the big deal here is that there's just not a lot of resistances on the opposite side, as already mentioned. Hansama and Larssen, though, still individually ahead of the clock in gold. Finn as well. Crownshot really the only one that's matching them so far. ZaZee and Jenax had significant deficits. Jenax especially is pretty down in the dumps. The big deal for Ornn, though, at this point is going to be experience. His individual items, while it will matter in a team fight, it's more about upgrading his allies. And it looks like
Leandre's on Finn.
Yeah, I love it.
Fun.
Works on his ult, you know?
It's just
good little bit of magic damage.
I think everyone's favorite item now. I feel like I'm always in a game and I'm like, what do I build next? Probably a Leandre's, wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, the thing is like, I know it's good. I can't tell you 100% why it's good, but I also know not to criticize it because LS and/or LS fans will come down from the sky and smite me.
Speaking of...
I'm getting too biblical today. I'm going to take it back a notch. We got Gilius. I'm talking about getting smote. We'll bring it back to what's at hand.
Okay, 16 seconds. Elder, what?
Crownshot, big fat auto.
11 seconds. Trick's already on it.
10 seconds. Trick ready. They've got good damage.
Okay, this is it. This is SK's opportunity. They can taste playoffs. It is within touching distance here of taking down the first place team.
Hansama back to full health. Remember, it was 1 empowered auto from Crownshot last time. He zoned off an entire setup with traps. It will all come down to this Elder Dragon.
That crab.
Scuttle Crab hooked away, but it will be taken by SK. Extra movement speed for them. But now, they're going to pull back. Ryze now on the flank, but they're taking so much damage. Crownshot raining it down, but Inspire now running forward. He's got a black shield. Eyes on Crownshot. He's throwing so much down. Larsen's taking a lot of damage, but in the meantime, Trick rolling through and just going to find the shutdown as well. SK absolutely monstering Rogue in the fight. They're going to get the Elder as well in a game that felt like it was unlosable for Rogue. Gets turned over 2 back-to-back steals and an Elder Dragon team fight to follow. My God, SK, way to keep the mental strong.
Yeah, and immediately they pulled the trigger on this. SK can smell it. They knew that they needed to get the Elder Dragon. They now have it, and now they know they need to end the game with this power. They are going to take down the first place team and potentially deny guaranteed worlds from Rogue against SK.
Crownshot hit the trap. Oh no! He didn't know about the trap. Oh, and that's going to do it. SK Gaming take down Rogue. No more first place for you. They're praying for a Mad Lions win later in the day. What do we say about that game, Froskurinn?
I think the game plan was pretty clear, and I think you give credit to SK for sticking to the game plan. Like, yes, it did come down to a steal, but they still knew how important it was.
Absolutely. And I'm just at a loss for words. I mean, it's incredible to me how many objectives they stole back-to-back. And really, first time I've seen Caitlyn in a long time, underestimated the sheer amount of damage that she does on 3 items. You were much more prepared for that than I was, Froskurinn, because Crownshot absolutely obliterated in that last fight. It took a little bit longer to kill Larssen, but overall, still really making the team composition work for them, even when it felt like Rogue had the game completely in their hands.
I think what was really cool about that is it kind of illustrates, I think, all of the developments that SK have made with kind of the new coaching staff with Jez coming in, is that everyone knew what their responsibility was for each portion of the game. You know, when you had an Olaf and Trick had it, he's like, my responsibility is literally just to get the early Drakes going. And Rogue handshook on that. Like, they knew that it was going to happen. Like, it's fine, we'll fight for the third one, we'll deny them the soul. And then Trick goes above and beyond what his responsibility is and steals away the soul. And then ZaZee goes above what his responsibility is and steals away the Baron. But it's kind of like that Christmas on a comp like that, where it is so clear what your windows are, that, like, credit to the coaching staff and credit to the development that SK have made.
Absolutely. And of course, you can vote for your key player of the game on Twitter. Trick, ZaZee, or Crownshot are your options. But coming up next, we're going to tell you more about this huge upset before Mad Lions take on Vitality.
Charged up. Hello, everybody. Let the game begin.
everyone. Welcome back to the LEC, where I've got SK's Crownshot here with me after a comeback win versus Rogue. Hello, Crownshot. What a win. Congrats.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, it was quite a banger, yeah.
Yeah, it was an absolute banger. So let's start by looking at some banger replays. I'm going to show you the Dragon steal into the Baron steal. And I know as a marksman, what do you do in this situation, right? Can you talk me through the team communication?
I mean, in this situation, Trick just said that he'll try to steal, and we said we'll just push mid and force them to GP ult. And that's pretty much what happened. And then we also knew they would go Nash. We obviously didn't know ZaZee would steal it, but yeah, our plan was to try and poke them and get them as low as possible, so we at least get something, yeah. It just, everything worked out very well, I guess.
Yeah, it worked out really well. I mean, with the Syndra, we've seen it happen.
Yeah, we've seen it happen a lot, actually. Maybe this champion is just blessed for Barons this.
Great turnarounds, but of course you can seal those objectives, and you have, of course, then the upper hand in that moment, but it's still not as easy as just closing out the game. Something Froskurinn brought up is that it looks like SK is a team that can take the plans of the coaching staff for the draft and both in-game and really translate it into game and follow the steps that were laid out by the plan. How much is that true, and how much do you think you can also react to everything that's happening in the game on the fly?
I would say a big part of that is Trick, because obviously he has a lot of experience. He won EU a lot of times, he won MVPs, and he always knows pretty much what to do in the game, and his shot calling also helps us. And so I would give most of the credit in game to Trick.
Do you think he's underappreciated, Trick?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. People obviously don't see everything he brings to us, because obviously they don't see the comms and everything, but I think he's a huge part of our wins.
In this case, though, the fans have voted you, Crowny, as player of the game. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I mean, it happens a lot with marksmen, of course. You do a lot of damage.
That's true.
Yeah, it is true. Talk to me about how you feel about your performance so far this split, and about the fact that you guys are so close to playoffs.
Well, I would say our performance this split, me and Limit together, is obviously better than it was in spring. I think also us as a team, we're better at playing around me. I think, again, Trick is a big part of why we are playing so good around bot lane and around Dragons. So I think my teammates play a huge part in why we are successful now.
Very humble. Thank you very much, Crownshot. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go over to the Analyst desk and look a bit more in depth at that incredible comeback.
That is the plan. Thank you very much, Batman. Yes, Sjokz and Crownshot. And now we set our sights on a bit more of the nitty and the gritty. In fact, I've got two no strangers to nitty gritty. It's Vedius.
That's us.
That's what they call themselves. And you can call me Machine for now. But like, picks and bans was where the story started. Of course, it ended with another Syndra steal in a Baron pit, which I'm sure Rogue aren't going to be too pleased about.
I mean, the end was super unexpected, because when you look at this draft, I feel like from SK's point of view, it is very clear what kind of strategy they're going for in the game. You don't draft a pushing bot like Caitlyn, Morgana, Syndra, Olaf if you're not trying to snowball early on. You have hard pushing lanes in mid and bot lane, and when I see this, I'm thinking Trick is playing fully around the bot side. You're looking to push, you're looking to fight over blue buffs and secure early objectives.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that, to be fair, Enner and I argued a lot, like about this draft in particular,
we do that a lot.
Because I think that Rogue's comp, while on paper, yes, it should scale better, I think that they do have a real range problem. Because I think that whenever they try to fight, their goal should just be to play front to back and to melt Ornn. And Ornn should, like, Olaf will be irrelevant later into the game, right? So if you kill Ornn, you basically win the fight. But I feel like that Morgana's value is like very difficult to notice, but I think we got to see a lot of it in every single fight, because every time you try to come in, she walks forward and ults, and then these short-range champions are either forced to commit and then potentially get themselves stunned, or immediately forced to back off, and then you have this massive range advantage that Crownshot can provide in the team fight. So I think that there are a lot of things that actually make it harder for Rogue to even win these fights later on into the game, but I think that only comes about if SK's comp actually is in a position to team fight.
Yeah, because I think like looking at this draft, you expect SK to be coming out with a gold advantage out of the laning phase.
Yes.
You're playing for turret plates early on.
Yep.
You're focusing on the bottom lane. You're getting a big CS lead in the jungle. All these things should play out, but Rogue showed up, and I was ready to almost write SK off the game because of Inspired's early game pathing, and we have a clip of that we can show now, because he really did take over the early game and limit a lot of what SK was able to do by these early ganks. He started off, if you look on the map right now, the map was actually split from level 1. That's Trick's initiative to go ahead and do that, but then Inspired says, forget any of this other crap going to my own jungle. There's wards that could see him coming down here. ZaZee doesn't expect it. He knows that Inspired is in his jungle, but doesn't expect the gank to come around the wall. He loses his flash, which then gives Larssen the option to get priority back in this lane and push for a top play.
Yeah, exactly. And the way in which Rogue handled this early pressure is extremely well done. It makes it very difficult for Syndra to actually generate pressure and be able to match some of the early roams. And this is something we see Larssen do whenever he's on Ryze. He loves to look for these early roams and try and impact the map. But most importantly, they attacked the bot lane too. It felt like that the early game was all about Inspired, and he was just running around Trick at every single opportunity.
Yeah, but it would be disingenuous for us to do all of that legwork and to not talk about the 2, maybe 1 key moments of that. That was very clearly going in one direction. Yeah. We had Rogue looking pretty damn good, and then there was a Dragon, there was a Baron, and we saw it all turn upside.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, right, even with these early game, you know, problems for SK, they're still picking up the Drakes.
Yes.
Because of the nature of their champions, you're going to get those for free, and Rogue know that. So Rogue were trading, you know, pressure on the top side of the map as opposed to fighting for the early Drakes. But the third Drake of the game is where it really did feel like it was going to be all over for SK, because Rogue had finally hit the items. They're finally ready to go for the fight.
And the reason why we're setting all this up is because we're highlighting how Rogue did literally everything right for like the vast majority of this game. Yes, they didn't secure that Drake, but everything up until this point was well executed from Rogue. And I felt like that we were seeing a situation where, okay, your early game could snowball out of control. No worries, we know the steps, we've read the handbook, we know exactly how to handle this. And again, it's like Mr. Consistent, the guy that knows he's going to deliver regardless of what strategy's thrown at him. He's like, okay, it's fine, I know how to get around this, not a problem.
But the smite did come through for Trick. So all SK are telling themselves, we're like, 5 minutes from now, we play for the Mountain Soul. If we can get that, if we can fight for that, if we can steal it, that's going to give us an honest shot at turning around the game. And Trick was able to show up one more time because he got that smite again on the objectives, and that was really huge for the team.
Yeah, and what's important to note here is this is why Ender and I got annoyed that Crownshot got player of the game. Because this mountain steal, like, while valuable, right, in the grand scheme of things, it was this steal from ZaZee that literally won the game for SK.
Yeah, because again, the Mountain Soul does not end the game for SK. All of a sudden, it's a big buff, but this Baron with their champions, their siege is going to be untouchable. And somehow, someway, ZaZee just lobs an orb in there and gets it. And
so Rogue have been here before. We heard them on the comms last time. All 38 HP. Frost talked about it on the cast. It was just a slightly mistimed smite. But Rogue have been in this exact position before with G2. Even in the comms when we heard them on mic check, they were like, be careful, Syndra can burst it. They're looking at that Syndra and they're like, nah, there's no way she can burst it.
You heard Crownshot himself say, yeah, we were just trying to do some poke, do some damage, and then, well, they weren't going to complain when they turned around the
saw that, and his immediate reaction was, oh, no. And then with that Baron, they immediately just flipped the switch. The gold suddenly swung back in their favor. And like, we also got to see some really great fights where, honestly, there were a couple question marks from us on how Rogue executed them too, because it seemed like fights that they still could have won were just very poorly executed. Like Hansama stepping on that trap,
that was
Larssen
unfortunate.
going for a flank. Like so many little execution errors we don't normally see from Rogue did come through, allowing SK to get an unbelievably massive win.
Well, honestly, a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of insight. I feel like I understand those moving pictures we just watched a whole lot better. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Ender. Thank you, Vedi. Rogue's opponents in the fight for first is Mad Lions. And in a few minutes, they take on Vitality, so don't go too far.